Hey everyone, just quite a short, probably sketchbook tour. It's not a full sketchbook tour. It's because a lot of you will have seen this sketchbook because it's like bits and pieces from Emma's Patreon and my trip to Valencia, which I've already shown you. And there's a couple of random train drawings. This I've shown on Instagram. So the sketchbook I'm not going to show you, but I just wanted to quickly show you the sketches I made when I went on my trip to Edinburgh to go and see Emily Mackenzie, and I went with Emma. I had originally booked a train up on the Friday, but then there was a train strike, so then I had to cancel my ticket and rebook a sleeper train on the night before, the Thursday night, which was not ideal and more expensive and quite stressful as a process. I won't bore you with the details of that now, but I will tell you about it on a Zoom one day, about how that train also got cancelled and how I got to London in the nick of time. Anyway, so that's for another day. So my idea was that on the way up I would draw from the train window and do some work and stuff, but I couldn't do that because it was a sleeper train, so you get on at like 9 o'clock and then basically you're asleep for the whole journey, and then you wake up and it's very early in the morning when you get out at Edinburgh. Anyway, so I did no work on this in my sketchbook on the way up at all. I was hoping to draw, or like at least inside the train. I was really looking forward to like a really long drawing of people because they were going to be on longer than my normal commute. Anyway, doesn't matter, I didn't do any. So I did this first drawing when I got there on that Thursday, and me and Emma just went round the corner because I got there. We spent all the day with Emily Mackenzie walking around, did no drawing, and then in the evening we went for dinner with me and Emma just went round the corner for some dinner at Wagamama, and so I just did this very quick drawing of the people in there. Then we came back and I absolutely butchered Emma. Like, doesn't look anything like her. So hard to draw her, and I don't know, the pressure of drawing your friend, it's like getting that wrong is bad, and I did get it really wrong. Anyway, we had a really good laugh about it, and yeah, terrible drawing of Emma. And then the next day, while we waited before we met Emily, we went down and drew from, we were staying really near the castle with the view of the castle, and this is my drawing of it from where we just kind of quickly sat and drew. And then I don't know what it was about the castle, but you'll see it crop up several times. It absolutely haunted me as something that I could not draw properly. I couldn't get it right. This doesn't even look like the castle. It's like very twee and not very castle-y, and it doesn't look like it's really up quite high up on the hill, and it's like, this doesn't give any hint that it's high up at all. It looks like some low-level housing. Probably the only thing I like is this tiny van. Anyway, I was really annoyed, and I was like, ugh, I'm gonna get that right this week. So then this is a drawing of like in the morning, I think, of like the view, like 5-minute timer I set for like the view that me and Emma had out of our window, which was like a really long road with a lot of traffic, and it was really difficult. And then I tried it again, but I just went very tight very quickly. Found that a real challenge. This is a terrible start to a bear. There's a bear statue with a guy next to it, again when we were waiting for Emily, and I just was in stitches because I was just like, what is going on? Like, I've done no good drawing at all. And it was kind of like that really all week. I didn't really do all weekend. I just didn't really do anything that I particularly loved. But I mean, it's fine. I think it's important to show you good and bad. Actually, now I've come back and looked at this one, I don't mind it as much. This gives a much better sense of how high up the castle is, probably because I put this little guy in the bottom and this bench, so you get a much better sense of the castle being higher up. And it's like on this quite nice rocky structure on the way up with the wall and then other bits and pieces. So this one feels like I was potentially getting somewhere with it, but we didn't have long. I mean, we were there really to hang out with Emily. It wasn't a drawing weekend. I mean, we did drawing obviously because that's just something that we, as a group, we love doing, and naturally any moment where we sat down and we had 5 minutes to spare, we were just like, oh cool, we'll just draw. It was really nice being away with people that have that mindset as well. It's like really lovely. There was a lot of, I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, thinking there's that funny thing of like, oh well, I'll share these drawings when I get back, and then it's like, I think there was that weird pressure of, but what if they're really bad, and because they're not going well, and I think that really haunted me all weekend. And I'm sharing them with you anyway, even though I could very easily pretend I did no work in Edinburgh, because I do think it's important to show that sometimes it goes well and sometimes it just doesn't. But it's knowing why it doesn't go well. Like, I did recognise that castle needed to be up higher. This, I quite like the drawing, but it doesn't look like Emily Mackenzie, sadly. But she was wearing a really lovely jacket. We've got the same jacket in a different style. So it was really nice. We were waiting for a table for lunch, and so they asked us just to sit outside and wait. So while we sat outside and wait, we had like a hilarious sort of 5 to 10 minute panic draw, because we weren't sure when we were going to get called in, when they'd got our table ready. So all three of us stood outside and drew, and you can see a funny photo of us all there drawing. But yeah, so that's quite a nice drawing. Doesn't look like Emily. This is something I started inside the cafe and instantly disliked it, so I thought I'd stop and start again. And this one I started again. It's like through the cafe through the big cafe window towards like the street outside and the shops that are opposite. This guy sat down and he had this huge camera, so put that down first, and then this guy sat down in front of a table, so he had this great jacket on and it sort of matched his like matcha smoothie thing, so I thought I'd draw that in, but then obviously the weird camera is like poking out of his head. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. So this was quite nice. There was like, these guys were sitting outside waiting like we had, and then these guys are opposite looking in this knight's vault at the shop, and there was like a knight in armor outside the front. This was looking really good until I put in these very weird windows, and I should have just left it alone basically. It's quite good to know when to stop. Then we walked around all day. We did so much walking, it was really nice. It was really nice not to have like any real plans, and just like wandering around, stopping for something to eat, drawing occasionally, and then that was kind of our plan. I think before we went here, I think this is the day that we went to the museum. So I've got a few drawings in my brown sketchbook. So this is something that, it was just such a nice museum, like such a nice layout. But I think again, it's that pressure of, I really loved the layout, and making that work was really difficult. This is Emma and this is Emily. They were drawing on this bit, and I was sitting down here because I wanted to get, there was this like really long squid. So everything in the Edinburgh Museum is like suspended from the ceiling, and it was just so cool. But I think it was like a lot of pressure to get that right. I quite like this one because I really sped up and used like one of those brush pens that I mentioned in the video that's already out, like one of these. And this one has a slightly nicer feel to it. I kind of chose a different angle and worked a bit faster. Emily Mackenzie did the nicest drawings of this museum. I'm going to link them below to her Instagram account. Hers was so beautiful. And then this is another one, and this one's not too bad. I quite like it on the brown. I've made a bit more effort to work on this sketchbook. And it was so great. It has all these like big kind of like walruses and dolphins and stuff, and then there's this like massive hippo suspended from the ceiling as well, and this croc. So it was really nice, like the sense of scale between these large animals and then people looking at stuff, like leaning on the banister opposite, was really fun to draw. This is me battling again with the infamous castle, and obviously quit. This is sunrise. So this is the next day. Hang on. I'll try and do it in order, not that it really matters, but still. So then after that, we went to get a drink in this bar. It was a really nice bar. It had like really nice signage and all these bottles and stuff sat up, and these people were working. And so I was trying to draw them, and she finished her shift early. So I hadn't drawn her arm, and I added in this arm. And Emma said to me, she just leant over and looked at the arm, and she just was like, really? The amount of live classes you've been to, and that's how you've chosen to draw that arm. And it was just so funny that I couldn't bring myself to rub it out. So I just thought I'd leave it because it would always remind me of that and make me laugh. Anyway, so that was quite a nice setup. I quite enjoyed. I'm much happier in like cafe environments and capturing people and all the little like all these like things that happen behind, like all the bottles, the till, and like glasses hanging up and stuff. So that was really nice. Then I tried to draw the castle from when we got back. Me and Emma got back to our hotel, and I tried to draw like sunset of the castle. This is like attempt number like 102 of the castle. Also didn't like that. It was such a nice silhouette. It's like really difficult. In my brain it looked great and I could see how it would work on paper, but it just did not work for me. Okay, so this is the next morning. So then this is the next morning, and this Emma was, I don't know, she was doing something, like maybe she was having a shower or something, and she came in and she was like, what are you doing? And I said, the sunset's amazing. And I was like, and I have to tell you that Edinburgh is also on fire, because I tried to capture the sunrise. It was coming up in a particular point behind the damn castle again. And as it came up, it was just like, it looked incredible, but I think I chose the wrong, it was softer than that. That neo colour definitely looks like stuff is on fire. And again, I didn't get that sense of depth going up really high. And it was like in a silhouette because obviously the light was behind it. So you could see some details, but some of it was much darker. And there are parts I quite like. Maybe actually I like it without that, but it was just so funny. I was just like, God, this castle is going to defeat me basically all weekend. It's going to defeat me. Anyway, so that was that. And then let's have a look. What else is, okay, so there's nothing in that one for now. And then we went out, me and Emma, not the view of the castle. So Emma was struggling with it as well, which was making me feel slightly better, that we were both like, why is it so hard to draw? And so then we sat on a different bit. We waited for Emily to come on the bus. So we just had like 15 minutes. So we sat at the bottom again, at the bottom of the castle amongst like the gravestones and stuff, and then looked up, and I was like, right, I'm going to get really big gravestones. Like, I know what I want to do, really big gravestones looking up towards the castle, but I can do it when it's like foreshortening and it's a life model. But when it was like buildings, I'd forgotten this castle should be so much smaller to give a much better sense of depth. And like now I'm back and I look at it, I understand what I've done wrong. So it's annoying, but also by doing so much bad drawing, I learned so much. So it's good. It's like, I think that's why I wanted to show you these sketches, because I was like, I mean, they're not really dreadful, but they're not what I wanted to achieve, but I do know why they're not right. And I think that's the most important thing. When you do a bad drawing, it's like, it's not just bad and it's like, oh, well, we'll just throw it away. It's like, well, when you take time to like re-look at it, it's like, well, why is it bad? Is it is it the color you don't like? Is it the is it color? Did you get the tone wrong? Is the shape wrong? Is the composition wrong? Is the content wrong? What is it that you are not happy with? Like, are you just being overly critical, or is there like actually more of like a problem within the drawing? So I think that's the thing. I'm not being super critical. I'm just not understanding that the castle is up really, really high and I'm very low, and I haven't achieved that feeling that I wanted to achieve. Even if I had to exaggerate it, which is what I do in life drawing, I didn't do that with the castle, and I think that is what I learned. So like, I don't have to render, and I've said this to my students and I say it all the time, I don't know, I just couldn't get it, I couldn't make it, I couldn't tell myself the correct lessons basically. Like, I don't need to render what's in front of me on the page. But yet for some reason I was trying to be accurate, and I think that's less playful, and I should have been more playful. So anyway, so again, there's like elements I quite like this color, quite like the shading, quite like this line here. You know, I like a sort of single line leading up to the castle, and there's even some bits here I quite like. But yeah, it should have been a lot smaller. And then what I did was on this, then I started on I took a large piece of paper with me to make a zine. And if you're on the other tier, the sequence tier, you'll see the time lapse of that, and you'll see the final finished zine and book. So those drawings are on the other tier. But anyway, so I was like, okay, right, this is again just a bit, I guess boring is really the word I'm looking for. It's just a bit boring. And then we went for lunch at the pantry, and that was really nice. I had quite a nice view across people towards the guy making coffee, and I always like how they turn the cup and tip and stuff, so I was trying to capture that. And again, like the tiling was nice and all the little details behind were really lovely, and so that's nice. Again, I think because it's an interior shot, I'm kind of a bit happier with that. And then we walked. Wow, we walked absolute miles. I did like 20,000 steps that day. It was so nice. It was like really lovely to walk super far. I'm not used to walking that far, and I did start to struggle towards the end. But anyway, it was really lovely, and we went up high up. Oh God, I can't remember. Not Arthur's Seat, but we went somewhere else, and it was yeah, it was really lovely to see the view from the top with Emily, and we spent loads of time together, and it was really nice not to have the pressure to draw. We just walked and looked at stuff and felt inspired and chatted and caught up properly, and it was like it was just so lovely. And then in the evening we went back to the same wine shop because we'd had a really nice time there before, and it was like really comfortable and had a nice atmosphere. And this time I drew, so before, like the bar is over here, and this time I drew looking the other way. And I was scared this guy was going to notice, but he was really enjoying his beer and his mussels, so I wanted to capture him, and then these people behind and stuff. So again, I'm happier trying to capture people in like a kind of cafe environment. So that was nice. I think it's because of the life drawing, I'm just much more confident. I think that was the other thing I realized. I was like, God, I just don't draw outside enough. I just don't draw enough buildings. I really like buildings, but I don't draw them enough. So now I'm going to try and get out a bit more, especially now it's spring and the weather's a bit nicer. I need to just get out. Like, I learned so much by doing all that life drawing, and I feel way more confident with it. So it's nice to feel confident, but I realize I just need to put in the time again and get more confident with other subjects. So that's a bit of a promise I've made myself. So we'll see how we get on this month with that. And then here's another one of the castle. But again, it's like not right. It's not, you can see I've given up quickly. It's like a bit half baked again. So then I've got drawings on the way home, I think. So this is Berwick to King's Cross. So these are the drawings on the way home. There was a really nice couple that sat opposite me, and I had plenty of time to draw them because from Berwick to King's Cross I don't think it stops at anything else. So it was like I knew they weren't going anywhere basically, so I could draw them a couple of times. So this wasn't quite right. I realised that he shouldn't have been the same height. So she was on that seat over there, and he was in this one here, and he should have been much bigger basically. But I really enjoyed how they were sitting and interacting. She was on her laptop quite a lot, and he was doing something else, the crossword in the paper, and he had like the way his ear was sticking out was really nice. And then I tried to put in some of the scenery that we were whizzing past, and they've got one of those little blinds down. So then I tried again, and I'm quite happy with this. This one, I like this blank negative space. I really enjoy negative space in my drawings and try and leave it. I try and think about where to leave it where possible. I'm going to do a video on that soon about looking at imagery and thinking about where you could leave stuff out. Not everybody loves negative space, but I do, and I wondered if people are interested in that. I could do a video like a kind of sketchbook challenge, which I don't do so often for this tier, but I thought that might be nice. We could look at images and work out how to leave negative space within that drawing. I've done it before in, I think it's in here, this one. So again, that building, like you get enough of the sense, you know what that building is like, you know it's one of those tiled ones in a particular country because of this line, and I enjoy leaving that out. And I also think that by doing that, it pushes you in here to understand that this is quite a narrow street. So these are the kind of things that I like. You know, I do enjoy negative space a lot and leaving. Again, the same here. It was such a narrow viewpoint. I want to push you hard into that bit there so that you can understand that's where I'm looking, and that's why I haven't included these bits. So that's stuff that I like to do with negative space. And then I thought, yeah, I could maybe think of stuff that we could do together. This is another one about an example of negative space where I've left the Sunlander out because you don't need it. You know what she's lying on from the hints I've given you of this, and this is enough for your brain to fill in the rest. Oh, this is a terrible drawing. So yeah, so anyway, I made him bigger and I got that. It's just a bit more dynamic. This is not very dynamic. This is suddenly much more dynamic. It quite helped that she sort of turned to face me while she was reading her paper and he was doing the crossword in his. And he looked much bigger suddenly because she'd shrunk back and leant against the wall, and he was sitting further forward, and I'd already recognised that he should be a lot bigger. And so I've kind of pushed it a little bit further, but I quite like the fact that I've exaggerated it basically. And he had this really nice shirt on and this dark blue jumper. So I've hinted at that without filling in. I mean, maybe it would look really cool as a big block. I think sometimes I could try that out by scanning this in and then filling that in and seeing what it does look like when I fill in more stuff. But for me, I've always left stuff, and you'll see that from the folio job when I can show you in May. Like, that's what they wanted me to do as well, was leave bits behind, so leave things out. That's all my testing. So yes, that was the end of that sketchbook. And then in here I did a few more. So this was like, so when I got to London to King's Cross, I had to change and get the train to Brighton. So I'd run out of space in this. I'd run out of pages in that book, I think. That's all my testing. Yeah, so I'd run out of space. So I decided I might as well bust out the brown sketchbook. So I did this drawing of this woman on the train to Brighton. Well, that was my last sort of bit of train ride, so that was nice. So it was a bit of a shame not to draw on the way up, but it was quite nice drawing on the way back. And then this is an image that I did from a photo for being, that's all that I've got. So this is the last image I've done, and this one is from a photo. So I did this the other day, looking at the photos I took in Edinburgh, and I wanted to try and see, with like a bit more time, whether I sat down and looked at an image, whether I could get across what it was that I was a bit annoyed that I didn't capture the first time. And I'm not sure it's right. Even from the photo, I think maybe the photo is wrong and I didn't choose the best bit to draw. I think it's quite complicated. I really liked the gravestones in front of the castle and these like big trees. And there was like a car and some people milling around, but I think again I didn't push the extremes. This castle could have been a lot higher again, and maybe this needed to be a bigger gap. So I feel like it's something that it's like a work in progress. I just need to keep tackling. What I am going to do is there's a construction site that's going on not that far from the house. So I'm going to go, I've walked past it a lot and I like the look of it. And I did a drawing in London the other day. And it's not in that sketchbook. It's in this one, I think. I've shared it on Instagram. And I enjoyed that drawing that I did. Where's it gone? Oh yeah, this one. So I liked this drawing that I did the other day of like the kind of quite plain urban environment that I was walking past near Vauxhall. And so I would like to tackle the construction work around the corner in a similar way, and see if I can get stronger at drawing buildings in the same way that I enjoy drawing people, and remember the lessons from Edinburgh about not replicating what I see in front of me, being a bit bolder with maybe colour choices and materials, and making sure stuff isn't twee, remembering what to leave out and what to put in, and like just pushing those viewpoints and those extremes, like, and seeing if I can create a better sense of like depth and height and stuff. So the construction site's really big, it's massive, they're building huge flats, and I wonder if I can get that, if I'll be able to get that across. I'm also wondering, I took this book because it was easy to London, but I'm wondering whether I need my bigger sketchbook, like the next size up, because when I've worked in that recently for life drawing, it's been, I did a session this morning, which is here. Sorry, this has turned into a bit more than just a sketchbook tour, but kind of, because I learned so much in Edinburgh, I want to kind of show you what it was that I learned. So this is my biggest sketchbook, and we did a session this morning with Adrian, and hang on, let me just bring up the camera. And because I chose the bigger sketchbook and not my smaller one, which I normally work in for life drawing, I could use a lot more line, like I could make the extremes more extreme, and I felt I had more space for movement. And I was using this pencil, which I really like, this one. Sorry, it's gone very cloudy suddenly, and I can feel that the light has just really faded from the view in from the window suddenly felt really dark. So I like this one in the same way that I really love this art graph one, but today I was using this one. So this one is a Faber-Castell Pitt graphite. This is 9B in this very chunky pencil. So you can use this end, it makes a line as well, which is quite nice. And then obviously you can get a finer line, and then I was also using it, you can use it like that. It's great, basically. So that's what I was using here for like live drawing, and I actually really love this grey one. I think it's my favourite. So that was good, and it was nice working bigger. I felt like my lines were a bit bolder and I didn't feel as tight, and I could make bigger marks, more like gesture at bigger marks, which is what I wanted to do. And then he did these kind of like flying poses again. So this one wasn't so great. I felt like the change in minutes I hadn't quite got used to, but then I enjoyed this one. And I used this one again, and then another colour pencil, and I just could draw, like I just felt a lot freer to have that much space. So these 3-minute ones I really loved. And then he did a longer pose. So this is just using this one again. It's not a great drawing, but I like my marks. Like I love being able to push down really hard with this pencil, and also being quite light. Like you can get quite a variety of marks. It's really nice. And then he did this really, this longer one, which is just like, it filled the page perfectly. It was like such a nice pose, and really good foreshortening, although his head should be, I think his head should be smaller to about there, looking at it, which I might adjust, or I might just not worry about it, but his head is definitely too big. But anyway, the point is that I pushed all the extremes, and I need to do that, I think, with the buildings. I like doing it in life drawing, and I am used to doing it in life drawing, but I don't do it enough when it comes to other things, and I want to try and do that. So that's what I learned from Edinburgh, was staying a bit safe and panicking a bit. But yeah, the ones I did like were the cafe ones and the train ride home, because I finally almost weirdly I finally learned the final drawing is probably the one I'm happiest with. So it's like it took me that long to kind of work it all out, but you know, that happens. Oh, and this one I don't hate. So I mean, I don't hate the other ones. This one and this one I feel mildly happy with. But yeah, and some of the inside cafe things, but these feel very me, so that doesn't feel like I took any major risks, but I feel like this one and this one, a few more risks, like this gap again about the negative space. So yeah, so if you're on the other tier, you'll see the zine in a minute, not in a minute, but like later. And if you enjoyed this sketchbook tour, there's lots more, I'll list them below. And yeah, I'll show you I'll try and do a video on negative space and a video on the construction site drawings when I get round to that. So yeah, that's my plan really for this month. Anyway, thanks as always for watching. Lovely to have you all here, and yeah, see you guys on a live Zoom very soon. Thanks, bye.